shocking power of cash. What I have learned by living in the Philippines, a primarily cash society, and the untold amounts of money that I have saved over the last 8 years by employing this one simple method. The good news, you don't have to move 6,000 miles away to employ it yourself. And that's why I feel compelled to share it with you now. There's some cash hacks or budget hacks that I've learned over time while living here in the Philippines. And the reason that I learned them is because here in the Philippines, unlike my home country, America, this is still primarily a cash-based society. And I don't think I would get much argument from you if I said that back home in the States, it's primarily a credit card and debit card based society. And so I know that when I lived in the States, that every month I would get the bills in and the usual suspects like the mortgage and the power and all that good stuff. But I would also get my credit card bills. And I would look at the bill and I would say, okay, it's $500 this month or $1,000, whatever it might have been. And very rarely would I just pay it off because, quite frankly, I didn't feel comfortable paying it off. I wanted to have a little cushion. So if it was $500, I might have paid $200 or $300. And that $200 that was left over would roll into next month. It would accumulate interest. And of course, now we're paying more for the things that we bought that were on sale to begin with. So it kind of wiped out the sale. And so when I came over here, I had this harsh awakening. And I remember distinctly my first 48 hours here in the Philippines. I went to, early in the morning, I went to a little thing called a sari-sari store. And I barely knew what that was at the time, other than it was a little tiny store, kind of a mom and pop operation. A lot of them you don't even walk into. You just walk up to a window and you see stuff hanging around like detergent and soap and this and that and other knick-knack stuff. And I went there to buy a pack of cigarettes. And so I think back then a pack of cigarettes was about 100 pesos. And all I had on me was 1,000 pesos. I pretty much knew not to ask them if they took credit cards. I could tell by the surroundings that wasn't going to happen. I didn't see any machines on the table for me to slide my card through. So I said, okay, so give me a pack of cigarettes, would you please? And that took about 3 attempts to get across what I wanted. Anyway, so she provides the pack of cigarettes. I hand her a 1,000 peso note because that's all I had on me. And she looked at me like I was crazy. And she said, I don't have change. And again, that took a few attempts for me to understand. And I said, you don't? And I didn't react. I didn't get weird with her. But I remember in my head, I thought to myself, who the hell opens up a store without a cash drawer? That's standard operating procedures back home. But guess what? I'm not back home. Over here, when the little sari-sari store finishes business for the day, and they have X amount of pesos, paper and coins in their cigar boxes, because generally they don't even have cash registers. Why would they? They just gather all the money up and take it home and spend it until tomorrow. And then they come in with no cash, and then hopefully they make some, so they got more money to spend that day, and on it goes. It's kind of a day-to-day survival with these beautiful people and their little sari-sari stores. And I commend them for being self-employed and having the nerve and the guts to, be a little entrepreneurial and start a business. So, that being said, I said to the woman, okay, well, these are 100 pesos for this pack. She said, yes, sir. I said, okay, well, give me 10 packs. I thought, that'll appease her. That's, 10 times 100 is 1,000 pesos. She gets to keep the full 1,000. She goes, well, I don't have 10 packs of cigarettes. We're running on a shoestring over here, buddy. And so I said, okay. And so now it was early in the morning and I'd had my coffee, and being a smoker, I really wanted my early morning cigarette. So I noticed that she goes, "You want a stick? What's a stick?" She said, "Well, it's individual." She didn't say this, but it's individual cigarettes that you can buy for like 3 pesos or something like that. I said, "What do you got?" She showed me. None of them were my brand, but that didn't matter. Nicotine's nicotine. So I said, "Yeah, give me I had some change. That's my saving grace. I had a few coins in my pocket. I couldn't tell you how much. Anyway, I bought a couple, 3 sticks from her, and she even gave me a light because I didn't bring a lighter. And so um, that was that little introduction to living in a cash society and how small a denomination I would need to learn to work with over here. And to this day, I do my level best to roll out of the house with 20s, 50s, hundreds, and 500s. The thousands I carry with me also. That's if I go to a big entity like Robinson's Mall shopping store, grocery store, or a hypermart, even a KFC or a 7-Eleven. Those folks I've learned over the years, you can throw anything you want at them. They've got the cash to break it. A lot of them do not take a debit card, like 7-Eleven by my house. I can't speak for all of them. They don't take a debit card or a credit card. Never tried because I've never seen the machine. One time, I rolled out of the house with my wallet, went to Hypermart. I remember this very, very clearly. And I forgot to put any cash in my wallet. I had like 500 pesos. And we went shopping and we did like 3 or 4 or 5,000 pesos worth of stuff. And I didn't have my cash. And I said, uh-oh. So I pulled out a credit card. I go, "You take credit cards?" And they said, "Yes, because it's a big entity. It's Hypermart." So they ran my credit card through and it didn't work. Oh boy. So I tried another one and it didn't work. I said, okay, I don't know why. Nothing wrong with them. Then I did my debit card. It worked. Thank God. So I got out of there. But I didn't get out of there quick because they had to fill out all these different forms and write down by hand the credit card number, the time of transaction, the amount, all this and that. And it seemed to drag on forever. And got my groceries, got my card, got my receipt, went out the door, said, "Well, I'll never do that again." Just too much aggravation, too much of a paper trail. What's wrong with these people? So I learned that by paying cash, I spent a hell of a lot less money. Here's my example. I would pull into a gas station back home and I would say, "Okay, I'm out of gas. I need to fill up." So I would roll into the AM/PM cashier where the gas station was. I said, "I need a full tank on number 8. All right, cool. And so I would go out and I'd start pumping the gas. Now, as the gas was pumping, did I just stand there and wait for it to finish? Oh no. I'd go back into the AM/PM or wherever it was, and I would start snooping around at stuff that I didn't need. And so there would be, a special on beer, a 12-pack of beer. I very rarely drank beer, but I knew I would want one every now and then. So I may as well pick that up. Look, I'm saving $5. Saving $5. And there was those Starbucks drinks, that are really tasty, and the glass bottle, but they're really expensive. Yeah, what the hell? I'll get a couple of those too. And then there's a pack of ho-hos. As you can see, I'm really watching my weight while I'm doing this. And I don't know, a ding dong and a pack of gum. So anyway, it'd click off on the gas pump. That would be just say $50, and then I would throw all this crap that I didn't need down on the counter. And now the bill was $65. And guess what I did? I just tapped my card or slid my card because it was so painless. Just go ahead and get this crap and sign my name. And I drive home having spent $15 that I didn't need to spend. One other quick example that I'll share with you that still torques me to this day. My ex-wife, God love her, was a spendaholic. And I think all women love shopping, especially for clothes and fashion. I don't begrudge them that. But she got this thing. What the hell was the name of that store? Fashion Bug. She got a little credit card, which I ended up paying, but for Fashion Bug. And at the end of the month or the first of the month, whenever, I would get this friggin' bill in the mail from Fashion Bug. And it would be like $280. And I would go, what the hell are you spending $280 on at the Fashion Bug? Why? I keep telling you, we're trying to tighten our belts here. And she would say, oh no, I saved you money because they had a buy one, get two deal. And in her mind, if she bought this dress and those shoes and that bag, she was going to get 3 times as much stuff as if they didn't have the sale going on. So she drank the Kool-Aid on the clearance and the 50% off crap that's hanging around. And she would say, that would have cost you $600 for me to get these clothes. And you want me to look nice, don't you? And I just hung my head. I said, you didn't save me $300. You spent $280. But that was the mentality. I can't begrudge her too much because I just gave you an example of me at the gas station. I saw something on sale. I thought I was saving money when all I was doing was spending money. So what happened over here? Here I am in the Philippines 8 years later. And I want to emphasize that you don't have to move to the Philippines or anywhere else. Hell, you don't even have to move next door if you want to experiment with what I'm going to share with you. And if you don't, I get it. But I wish to hell I had this mindset from 20 years old on up. Cash is king. I would go to, one other fine point I'll put on this. Whenever I went to an ATM to get cash, I'd grown so accustomed to using my ATM card or a debit card, a credit card, whatever, to make my purchases because I just felt it was simpler and I had a record. I had all these justifications for using it. That I would do what's called quick cash. I'll never forget. You hit quick cash, you put your PIN number in, hit quick cash, and it was $40. So I would get $40. I would have it in my wallet because I didn't ever want to be, broke without any money in my wallet. And sometimes I would go a month and I would still have $28 because I very rarely pulled out one of those 220s that the machine had given me. Everything was tap, 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 slide, 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 code, 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 get a receipt and run off after overspending it damn well everywhere that I went. It also made it real easy for me to play the role of the big shot when I went out with a couple of friends or something and we'd go get some drinks or we'd go get some all-you-could-eat sushi or whatever we were doing, and they'd come with the bill and I would say, well, I'll get it. I got it, guys. Yeah, I'm a big shot. Let me have this check. All right, that's okay. That's okay. No, don't worry about it. You get it next time. Yeah, sign it off and give a great big generous tip. And I was a big shot with the waiter and I was a big shot with them, all in my head. And boom, I'd go home. Then I'd get the bill and I'd go, oh, shit. What did I spend all that money on those dummies for? So over here, I have developed this dealio because I just did it yesterday, which is what prompted this video, is I went and got my monthly budget. And my monthly budget, as I've showed before, or shared before rather, is, this isn't a budget video, but it's $2,000 USD. And it got me 160 some odd thousand pesos because I took out 29, which is another reason I take the $900 and I put it in a bank over here to have a backup. So I think I've got about 110,000 pesos to my name to run through the rest of this month, something to that effect, and maybe 120. And I use an envelope system. So the minute I got home with that cash, I took out my envelope. If I had it here, I'd show it to you. But it says rent right there. And I peel off my 20,000 pesos, which is all I pay for rent. And that pretty much, and then I throw 25,000 in there because I want to be able to cover the electric also. And it's usually overkill, but I figure, okay, let's put it away. And guess what I do? I forget about that envelope. It's off limits. It's tucked away. It's in the nuclear vault. You can't get to it. So boom, there goes that envelope. I have another envelope for my savings account over here, which is where that 50,000 pesos goes until I can make it to my other bank here in the Philippines. I can stuff it in there. And that's just an extra savings account that I have here locally, as opposed to all my money being in the States. Want to be able to have a plan B. Actually, I have a plan C, but I won't get over there. And so there you go. Now I got money there. I got some money here. And now the rest is, oh, and I have a project going on this month, which is a young lady named Gina who was, half of her house got washed away due to the aftermath of a typhoon we had a few months ago. And I videotaped that. I had some compassionate people from the channel send over some love and compensation for her to help her rebuild her house. And so I've been putting money in that envelope. Quick update on Gina, which I'll be finally doing a video, I hope, in a couple of weeks, because the inclement weather here has been brutal for her to get any work done. We've given her over 200,000 pesos, all from you guys. So thank you very much. And a little bit from yours truly, but what the hell. Anyway, so my envelope system, boom. I put that in for Gina because that came in. I got to set that aside, keep it separate from everything. And now I got two envelopes in there. And then I have the envelope with my monthly budget. And since it varies due to the exchange rate, right now it's pretty high. So I think I got an extra 3, maybe 4,000 pesos compared to last month even. Then I count it out. I go, okay, we're saving the 50, we're putting Gina away, we got the rent covered. And now I count it out. And I do a real quick calculation in my head every month. I've got it down to a science now because it never changes that much. But I know how much I have to spend on a daily basis until 30 days rolls by, and I have got a throttle on myself to where if I walk out of the house with 10K, I know that that should last me for 3 days or 2 days or whatever math applies at the time. Now, the big takeaway from this is it was so painless to just throw that card at somebody, and no pain whatsoever when I purchased something. It was delayed pain when I got the bill. And then yet I could justify not paying it in full, and I'll catch up with it later. No such thing out here. I've used my credit card out here possibly 3 or 4 times, and that is to buy a plane ticket and book a hotel. End of story, because that's the only way you can do it. Can't go up and pay cash and arrive there, which I would rather do, because I've learned the power of paying cash. If I roll into a store and I've only got so many dollars, let's talk about filling up the tank of gas, $50. Well, if I had rolled into that gas station and got $50 worth of gas, and I had $52 in my wallet, no credit card, I would have spent the $50. The $2 I wouldn't have spent. But I think back in my earlier example, it was like $15 that I overspent. Multiply that out over 40 years. See what happens to your budget. Something I wanted to throw out to you. I imagine that if I was living in the States and I had adopted this financial culture, I'll call it, that I would have got my money, I would have cashed it, my check, instead of depositing it. I would have put money in an envelope for my mortgage back then, one for the car, one for this, one for that, and I would have already deprived myself of having what I considered to be throwaway money or extra money or fun money. No, I had now let's live money. And I could have done the exact same thing. All right, I got I got $2,000 left over, or whatever the number is, it doesn't matter. But I could figure out mentally, how much do I have on a daily basis, and try to leave the house with no more than that in my wallet. And all of a sudden, you would have, or I would have, tons of more money because I would not have done impulse purchases. Impulse decisions always end up being a disaster for me. I won't speak for you. But whenever I do anything on the fly, I don't give it any real thought. I just do it impulsively. Very rarely does anything good come out of it. And that includes spending money. Okay, we'll see you next time.